Hey folks, it's your host I2I35, and this is going to be another video response to one of SolRosenberg84's videos, and this one is titled Response to a Question for Intelligent Atheists, and this is what he has to say about it.
Doing a video response here to Kylejbritt's film, A Question for Intelligent Atheists. And in this film, he puts forward the question, if there really was a God of a particular religion, such as the Judeo-Christian God, depending on whether you're talking about the Old Testament or the New Testament, or any other religion, what would you expect to find in this world, or how would you expect the world to be different? Well, on that end, I actually do have an answer to this, because if there really was a single God that really wanted to get in touch with people, first off, it would be natural for that religion to show up all over the world.
Well, basically the gospel of Christ has gotten to almost every country of the world, and that does not really include the Catholic countries of Europe. They're not gospel based. They are counterfeit Babylonian based, okay? And there are a lot of countries where it have to have underground churches and so on, or that has to happen. And basically, he even has to say this.
All over the world. So let's say if there really is a Judeo-Christian God, why don't we see more Jesus figures? Why don't we see more figures like Jesus talking about the Judeo-Christian God, telling people in different cultures all around the world which have not been connected to the desert at all?
Basically, you're trying to say, why is there only one Jesus, throughout history? Why is there only one person at one time?
All about this. Why would an intelligent super being only send one dude at one time? It just doesn't make any frickin' sense.
Basically, God does not operate by our way of thinking. He operates by His way. Our ways are flawed. God knew what He was doing when He chose Abraham and the Jewish people, because He would bring the Messiah of the world out of that. And basically, you're saying, oh, why can't there be more Jesus people? Telling people more about it. Well, basically because He already said to His disciples, go out into all the world and preach the good news to every creature. And that means that we're not supposed to be whiny ninnies that God has to babysit. It's time for us to grow up and be responsible. That is the reason why. And there are a lot of testimonies of Christians who used to be ex-occultists. For example, Buddhists or Confucianists or Shintoists or Hindus or Hare Krishna people. Some of them have testified that in their occult days, that they were told that Jesus is the ultimate one for morality and salvation, that kind of stuff, and they eventually all became Christians and understood that that was basically the truth that they've been looking for all their lives. Sure, all these people like Confucius or Buddha or all these kind of like people taught some kind of like wisdom, philosophical like wisdom and such, but you gotta understand, wisdom and this intelligence for understanding things and such, they all are derived from God. Their source is God. And people are given like a God-given wisdom and so on. But I have to tell you, a lot of people use it the totally wrong way for the totally wrong reasons.
Religion is correct, and it really is this stuff. Why don't we see Judeo-Christian people being able to pull off crazy miracles by themselves? Supposedly having faith in this guy is supposed to give you some crazy awesome powers, according to some of the stuff written in the Bible. You hear stories of people surviving, terrible flames and all these other horrible things just due to their faith alone. I mean, why don't we see this?
Because of liberal slanted journalism these days that don't let people see all these, hear about these miracles. I've researched and researched and researched a lot of things like support creation, the gospel of Christ, the absolute truth, that basically do not get out to the public. I like to ask people these days, why don't these things get out to the public? I don't care if it's the supposed journalism of people these days that think this might be too biased or whatever. It's just that they don't want to let it get out to the public, because they know it's going to expose their sin. Ultimately, people don't like the gospel of Christ or Jesus, ultimately because He exposes their sin. But all these miraculous stuff, they have happened all around the world. I can give you carloads of evidences that these miracles have happened, but in a lot of cases, cases. Miracles don't leave behind evidence, but something like a worldwide flood would.
Why don't you hear, someone getting shot with a bullet and the bullet magically defecting when they're praying or something? This stuff.
Yeah, this bullet thing. I remember watching a documentary about a church in India or Puerto Rico, some place that kind of like people with a certain accent, and they made up this rule that there was this kind of idol they were supposed to bow down to, and anyone who wouldn't would be shot in the throat. Basically, there was this one Christian man who wouldn't do it, and so they basically blindfolded him and made him open his mouth, and they pulled out a gun and they were going to shoot down his throat. But as they went click, nothing happened. A lot of cases where a lot of Christians, have guns fired at them, those guns don't go off at all. There are a lot of places where, Christians have survived gun attacks by anyone who decides to kill them or whatever, and God delivers them, as much as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And you think there's always a natural explanation for these things, and you think these things don't exist. That's because you have never been introduced to this evidence in a liberal biased classroom of a public school, of a New World Order school, alright?
Give me a faith healer that can make a frickin' limb regrow, and I'll listen to you. Until then, I truly don't care, because all that stuff could have happened by itself. So in summary, if there was a God and it supported a single religion, then...
Basically, stop slamming the title religion on the gospel of Christ. It is total opposite.
In that case, I'd expect to see that religion equally dispersed around the world in several different cultures, yet still remaining identical in its message.
Basically, the gospel, there are many Christians around the world. Forget about all the statistics these days. There might be a lot more than you can think. But Catholicism is in no way a Christian religion. Is in no way a Christian, denomination whatsoever. It is total, it is a cult in every sense of the word, erected to counteract true Christian growth. It is not Christian by any historical, spiritual, or biblical sense.
And I'd also expect to find that people of that religion get different benefits from other people, and they wouldn't just be the exact same, some sort of longer lifetimes, or just something that shows that they have something special. But
if you are trying to say you don't see that or whatever, it's just that you decide to stick to your own preconceived ideas and think this whole crazy or whatever. You think that there is no such thing or whatever. There is, but you just don't want to see